The first high-profile resignation after the damning report into Diana's Panorama interview. Lord Hall, the former boss of the BBC, was heavily criticised by the inquiry. He's now quit as the chairman of the National Gallery. Also on the programme, tackling the Indian variants, the importance of getting the second COVID jab.
With all of these variants, if you're asked to, get a test and also get the jab. Not just the first jab, but the second jab. It's so important.
Saints alive, St Johnstone make it a cup double in Scotland. And the Queen meets the Queen Elizabeth, the Royal Navy's £3 billion aircraft carrier.
This is ITV News with Duncan Golestani.
Good evening. The row over the BBC Panorama interview with Princess Diana has claimed another scalp. Lord Hall, who was Director of News when Martin Bashir used forged documents to secure the interview, resigned today from his current job as chairman of the National Gallery. He was heavily criticised in this week's report into the handling of his botched inquiry into how the interview was obtained. Mr Bashir has not been seen since the report said the broadcaster fell short of its standards and covered up deceitful behaviour used to secure the interview in 1995. Our political correspondent Carl Dinnan has the latest.
Lord Hall became the chairman of the National Gallery last year.
I think the fact that gallery was closed...
Today, he quit on account of his actions in his old job at the BBC. In a statement, he said, "I have today resigned as chair of the National Gallery. I have always had a strong sense of public service, and it is clear my continuing in the role would be a distraction to an institution I care deeply about. As I said 2 days ago, I am very sorry for the events of 25 years ago, and I believe leadership means taking responsibility."
Once the separation had occurred,
Lord Hall had investigated Martin Bashir over the Diana interview and declared him honest. This week's Dyson inquiry said Lord Hall's investigation had been woefully ineffective. Hall was also Director General of the BBC when Bashir was rehired. One of the original whistleblowers in the case said he was right to quit.
I think Lord Hall did the right thing. What the Dyson report shows is the BBC management knew that Martin Bashir had lied and fabricated documents, but they still rehired him. Why they doubled down on a man that they knew was a liar is beyond me.
It's reported that Princess Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, has urged the police to investigate the BBC over the forged bank statements Bashir used to ingratiate himself with the family. For now, though, the government is not intervening directly.
Well, this is a very serious matter, as the Prime Minister set out. I think that what really matters for the BBC is that they put in place what is needed to ensure that this sort of thing can never happen again.
At the Church of Scotland General Assembly today, Prince William spoke of his emotional attachment to Scotland.
I was in Balmoral when I was told that my mother had died. Still in shock, I found sanctuary in the service at Crathie Kirk that very morning. And in the dark days of grief that followed, I found comfort and solace in the Scottish outdoors.
The BBC's failings in the run-up to those days, still a source of deep hurt and anger within the royal household.
So, Carl, a former BBC boss resigns, but is the corporation itself under pressure to change?
Yeah, I think it really is. Now, all of these events, of course, happened a very long time ago. And since then, there have been two major changes in the structure and governance of the BBC. And it is now a very different kind of place. Nevertheless, I think the government, although not directly at this stage intervening, will want to see some willingness from the BBC to reconsider the way that it is governed. I understand that although they're leaving it to the BBC, they will be leaning on them. That was the word that was used to me, to re-look at the way they are governed. And if they don't, if the BBC doesn't change of its own accord, then next year there is a mid-term review of the charter, at which point the government would be able to step in if it wanted to.
OK, Carl, thank you. Another milestone was passed today in the fight against COVID. Latest figures show more than 50 million doses have now been given in England. It comes as the Health Secretary emphasised the importance of getting the second jab in the effort to stop the spread of the Indian variant. Neil Connery has the details.
Surge testing is being rolled out in more areas as public health officials try to keep track of the rapidly spreading Indian variant. 4 areas of West London will now start surge testing on Monday. In North Tyneside, it's already up and running.
The Indian variant's spreading quickly and I thought it would be better to come for a test just to make sure.
I work with kids, so I thought it would be easier. I've got their little tests at home, but they're supposed to be more accurate.
But in Rochdale, there were queues of cars outside a drive-through vac centre as the council encouraged everyone over the age of 18 to come forward for a jab. This is different from the English national policy, which is to invite people 32 and over for vaccination. Vaccine policies are under scrutiny after the Financial Times reported that 1 dose of vaccine may not be quite so effective against the Indian variant and that 2 doses are needed for a high level of protection.
We feel like we're on the home straight now. And what we said all the way through is that the only thing that can scupper us is not being vigilant enough about spread of new variants. And so every time that we let a new variant in or let a new variant spread, like now with the Indian variant, we kind of set the clock back a little bit.
The Health Secretary insists getting a second jab is vital.
What we know is with all of these variants, if you're asked to, get a test and also get the jab. Not just the first jab, but the second jab. It's so important.
Today, a programme of sewage testing was extended, which can detect even the smallest traces of COVID and other pathogens in the community.
We can look at a community of about 14 or 15,000 people, and we would be able to detect whether, for example, there might be 1 or 2 undetected cases within that community. And then we can pass on that information to the local health protection team, the local director of public health.
But for now, the focus remains the Indian variant, with questions over the extent of its increased transmissibility and how best to keep it under control. Neil Connery, ITV News.
More aid convoys have arrived in Gaza following a ceasefire with Israel. Much needed medicine, food and fuel is finally getting through as thousands of Palestinians returned home to inspect the damage. 11 days of fighting between Israel and Hamas have left some 250 people dead, mostly Palestinians. Here, there have been large demonstrations in support of the Palestinians, with tens of thousands taking part in the march through central London. Blockades have been set up outside 4 McDonald's distribution centres. Depots were blocked by the activist group Animal Rebellion. They're calling for the fast food chain to become fully plant-based by 2025. McDonald's has apologised to customers for any disruption. A photo of the missing daughter of the ruler of Dubai has been posted online, appearing to show her in a shopping mall in the United Arab Emirates. The unverified photo of Princess Latifa, sat between 2 other women, was initially shared on Instagram. Since 2018, she's claimed she's been imprisoned by her father. A campaign group calling for her release said there have been several potentially significant developments. And 3 months after NASA landed their Perseverance space probe on Mars, China has become the second country to operate a rover on the planet. Pictures released today show the Shurong craft rolling off its landing platform to begin exploring. To football, and an amazing season for Scottish club St Johnstone got even better today. They'd already won the League Cup and now they've made it a double, lifting the Scottish Cup too after a 1-0 victory over Hibernian in the final at Hampton Park. Chris Scudder was watching.
The greatest stage in Scottish football, the Scottish Cup final.
Fans were back for the English Cup final, but Hampton Park was empty because of a fresh COVID spark in Glasgow. Hibs wanted revenge. They'd lost the League Cup semi to St Johnstone, but missed an early chance.
Zander Clark stands firm.
The team from Perth made them pay again just after the half hour.
In comes the ball, and there is the goal! It is St Johnstone legend Sean Rooney.
St Johnstone had not won a major trophy in 130 years of trying. Now they were on course for a 3rd trophy in 7 years. They made it harder work than they might have. Hibs conceded a penalty.
St Johnstone penalty. It is Middleton.
And Glenn Middleton missed it. But it didn't matter.
And that's it. A superb season has just become an extraordinary season.
St Johnstone become only the second club outside Giants, Rangers and Celtic to win both domestic cups in the same season. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
Brentford have taken a step closer to the Premier League after beating Bournemouth 3-1 in the second leg of their Championship playoff semi-final. It means they are now just one win away from that lucrative promotion. Will Mott has the action.
1-0 down from the first leg, Brentford needed to make home advantage count in front of several thousand fans, but they were soon architects of their own downfall when all 10 outfield players attacked an early corner and left Bournemouth's Arnaut Danjuma a clear run at goal. The visitors were quickly 2 up on aggregate with less than 5 minutes played.
It's deja vu!
But moments later, Lloyd Kelly was judged to have blocked a cross with his arm.
It looks harsh.
Bournemouth unfortunate. Ivan Toney uncompromising.
Ivan Toney!
Bournemouth's handling would let them down again when Chris Mepham brought Brian Mbeumo crashing to the floor.
How does the referee see this? Red card!
In the second half, Brentford made the advantage count, first through Vitaly Janelt. And with 10 minutes to go, Marcus Fors prodded home the goal to take the Bees up the road to Wembley. Swansea or Barnsley lie between them and a first ever season in the Premier League. Will Mott, ITV News.
And that second match between Swansea and Barnsley has just kicked off with the score currently 0-0. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc will start tomorrow's Monaco Grand Prix in pole position. He'll lead the grid despite later crashing out of the qualifying and ending the session early. It means Championship leader Lewis Hamilton will start the race back in 7th, behind his title rival Max Verstappen in 2nd. The Queen has visited the Royal Navy's new flagship, the £3 billion aircraft carrier HMS Queen Elizabeth. But curiously, it's not actually named after her, but Queen Elizabeth I, the Tudor monarch whose navy defeated the Spanish Armada hundreds of years ago. Sam Holder has the story.
Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, meet HMS Queen Elizabeth, the Royal Navy's brand new flagship aircraft carrier, getting a royal send-off before its maiden deployment. The £3 billion warship is the biggest and most powerful in the history of the fleet, capable of carrying up to 40 aircraft, which is good news for Her Majesty, who told Commodore Steve Morehouse that she was looking forward to some peace and quiet. The jets on board are normally based near her home in Sandringham and will now be away for the next 7 months. The ship is named not after today's special guest, but Her Majesty's namesake and predecessor of more than 400 years, Queen Elizabeth I, who ruled during the triumph over the feared Spanish Armada. The carrier is going slightly further for its first major operation, to the Far East, a confident but not confrontational, in the words of the Prime Minister, show of strength to China. The country has been criticised for aggression and fortifying disputed islands in the South China Sea. Among those on board in Portsmouth today, a squadron of US Marines who'll be part of the 28-week deployment. After getting a brief overview of the planned route, it was time for one Queen to leave the other. The crew of the HMS Queen Elizabeth, giving Her Majesty a traditional send-off. Sam Holder, ITV News.
And finally, after a year off because of the pandemic, the singer James Newman will be hoping to end the UK's dismal run at the Eurovision Song Contest.
I know my fire burns low, but as long as you're with me, I'll never get cold. Day and night, through darkness and light, I'll never worry when you're by my side.
If the singer manages to not finish in the bottom 3 of the competition with his song Embers, it would be an improvement on recent years. The UK came in last place in 2019. And that is it. I'm back with the late news at 10:35. Until then, have a good evening. Bye-bye.